Hello and welcome back to another Grand Cross Age of Titans video. Today's video is the long-awaited Rina testing video. So before we hop into all of the reports I have, I just wanted to say sorry it took me so long to be able to do this. All of us are busy during the week, and I really wanted to try and do this earlier, but unfortunately scheduling and everything like that with our day jobs is really hard. So with that being said, I do want to thank Lord, Phenix, and Gabe. They're the ones who set out and helped me test. We gave up a couple of our platinum chests from our alliance mates, but that is totally okay. So with this test, I wanted to do it a little bit differently. So Phenix is in a better position than I am in the lab. So he has all three of these guys maxed out, and these are higher. I think they're either level 8 or 9 for all of them, and these are also a little bit higher on his end as well. And then with Gabe, she's about the same position I am away from Phenix, but in accordance with myself. So with that being said, let's go ahead and hop into this video here. And I went ahead and saved every single combination that we tried here. And so in just a second, I will go ahead and start going through them. So for these scenarios, whenever I was fighting Gabe, I tried to match her troop count, and whenever we were fighting against Phenix, we typically sent whatever we could. We did use tier 1 just to keep it even. There were no buffs on, only whatever castle skin that you wanted to use. With Lord later in the video, he's also a little bit higher than me in lab, but we also matched our troops. So let me go ahead and find this first report. So this is the first report. I had Rina in Sekhmet, and Phenix had Biam in Sekhmet. So obviously I completely destroyed this march. I only had 195,000 tier 1. He had 230. Heavily wounded was 28,000 to 71,000. And before I continue any further, I did build Rina's tree according so. I did go higher in the attack and defense tree, and then I put a couple on health, but not very much. So I will move it over to here. And also to note, I do not have this one unlocked yet, as my Rina was only level 54 in these battles. So just as you know, the developers can change anything they want about this commander or hero. And with that being said, these are just tier 1s. It's just a one-on-one battle. I will release the full video later. I just have to do a little bit of editing on it, just for trying to keep it as PG as I can, as I try to do my videos. But in the live streams, I kind of go off that a little bit. So I just wanted to point that out. So anytime that Rina is primary, I use that setup. As you can tell, she is completely awakened on my end. And Phenix does have better commanders than me. And then Gabe has pretty decent unique commanders. So let's go ahead and go back down here. And so once again, this was that first one of Rina and Sekhmet against Biam and Sekhmet. Next, we tried it with Rina Biam against Biam and Sekhmet. And this march did even better. So it was 18,000 against the 92,000. Moving on, I did Rina and Biam against Gabe's Krishna and Destina. And then this did 11,800 to 77,646. Next, I threw Sekhmet with Agnes, and I had Phenix pull a Rina and Agnes. As you can tell here, his Agnes is a little bit worse than mine. His Rina is not expertise, and my Sekhmet is awakened, and my Agnes is 541. And he still almost got a 2-to-1 ratio. Actually, he did get a 2-to-1 ratio. Wow, my math is really horrible this afternoon. But yeah, so he got a 2-to-1 ratio, even though my commander's awakened, and my Agnes is a little bit better than his. So next I tried Rina and Biam against Gabe's Krishna and Kalopi, and that was just a complete blowout. As you can tell, I'm using more troops than she's able to send. So this is a little bit more of a one-on-one scenario with tier 1. Later in the video, we do it a little bit differently, like I stated. Next report, I had Phenix run Rina Agnes again, and I ran a Jeanette Claudia. And that went about as well as you could expect. Phenix did a 3-1 on me, and my Jeanette is awakened, and my Claudia is a 5-5-4-1. And once again, his Agnes and Rina are not awakened on either of them. Next, I did Rina and Biam against Gabe's Krishna and Klopi. As you can see now, we use the same amount of troops with the tier 1 scenarios, and it was 16,000 to just under 74,000. Next report, we ran this the same way, but we used the same amount of troops, and it was just under a 3-1 again against Phenix. This time I ran Rina and Numa against Krishna and Destina using the same amount of troops. So when we're actually in the battle on this one, I do remember this. I almost lost. So Numa is definitely not an option on this. I just want to put that out there right now. If you got to this point in the video, I will talk about it again at the end and who I think would work with her and who I think should be primary in each scenario. But Rina Numa, definitely out. Next report here, I used Claudia and Arthur against Rina Agnes from Phenix. I had more troops than he did in this scenario, and he did almost a 3-1 again on me. This one was not even close in the fight again. I ended up switching these guys, so I had Claudia Arthur at this point and Agnes Rina. A little bit better compared to this one over. Actually, this was worse. I lied. Never mind. Ignore me. Moving on. So I did Rina and Numa against Krishna and Klopi, matching the troop count. And even though it looks like I got a 2-1 trade, the fight in the open field, my march was pretty low after the end of this battle. So after these two, even against Gabe's Krishna and Klopi, which are both unique commanders, and hers are awakened on both of them, I definitely would not even consider using. Oh, the most embarrassing report of this entire thing. So just for the heck of it, I just wanted to use Melody and Jang against Rina Agnes, just to see. I just want to throw one out there. If it did it decently okay without a buffer in front, then I would have kept testing it, but as you can tell, the Archer March just got completely destroyed, so I didn't even want to waste our time against any different combination with Archers against Rina, so we practically ignored her for the rest of the time. Then I threw a Jeanette Canis against Rina Agnes in the field, and Phenix did 52,381 to his 18,395. I tried Rina and Helga just because why not against Krishna and Destina. Same amount of troops and everything. So even though it's almost a 2-1 in this scenario, once again, the actual march itself was getting pretty low. As you can tell, I only had 26,000 survivors left. So Helga is definitely not an option. Then Phenix just said, why not? Let's try to run a Rina and Jeanette against my Sekhmet and Biam. As you know from the past videos, I do really enjoy running Sekhmet and Biam out in the open field, just because why not? They're both expertise, even though Biam is supposed to be a siege hero, which is attacking cities. I just like it. It's proven pretty good, and in this scenario again, even though Jeanette is a unique, it still held its own pretty well, where he only had 31,000 survivors left, and it was 44-6 to 54-3, so that's a decent trade. I ran a Rina and Belly against a Krishna and Destina, and so once again, my Belly is only a 5-4-1-1 commander. He hasn't appeared in our summons yet. I believe in Worlds 1 through I don't know how many tests there are, so I'm just gonna say 1 through 4. They are having their summons pretty quick. The one in the 6,000 gem one, and it only had 36,000 survivors left. Definitely not something that you want in the open field when you're fighting, especially with KVK coming. Belly, I would not even think about throwing with Rina anymore. Next, Phenix wanted to test out a Rina Bella against my Sekhmet Biom. I had almost 40,000 additional troops, and I beat him 47 to 62. What I'm going to say later in this video might contradict this report, but I do think it's important in saying so, so I will keep my opinion there. I do think Bella is a good last resort to kind of put with Rina, though. I went ahead and I ran a Rina Galahad against Krishna and Destina. It was a little bit over a 2-to-1 ratio with 62,000 left. This March actually did a lot better than I thought it would, especially since Galahad isn't one of the uniques I'm particularly really investing in, but she's also another decent option depending on which commander you have closer to awakening than the other. Next, we had Phenix run Rina Isaac against my Sekhmet and Agnes, and that did over 2-to-1 with him having 86,000 troops left. So with Isaac provides a very nice defense aspect to the March, so I really do think Isaac is very nice, but a lot of people do not want to break up Isaac and Agnes, which I don't blame you. That's a very nice March to bring out into the field. Next, we had Phenix run a Rina Biom against Jeanette and Claudia. In this scenario, he had just over 30,000 troops more than me, and I got absolutely just demolished in this March. I ran a Rina Galahad again against Gabe with her Krishna Kalopi with 10,000 extra troops. This one wasn't terrible, still got a 3-to-1 ratio on her, but I only had 87,000 left. So if I was fighting one-on-one with someone in the open field and then someone else tried to come up and, you know, kind of snipe my march, they could easily do that. So maybe in like a tier 4 to tier 4 ratio, this might change a little bit, but if someone's using a little bit better commanders than what Gabe's throwing at me, it might not work very well on the open field. But then again, not everyone's spending in the game, so I'm just going to give you all my thoughts and all my ideas on what we could think would be a good pairing with Reno. Next, I had who did I have primary in this? I had Sekhmet Rina, so I made her a secondary commander against Krishna and Destina. This trade wasn't too bad. It's over a 2-to-1, but I still only had 66,000 troops left, so it is a third of my march remaining. So as these tests are going to show, I'm not a big fan of having Rina secondary. In some scenarios, this one against Phenix, as you can tell, he had 30,000 more troops, but he still had 170,000, so he only lost 60,000 troops in this exchange compared to me losing my full 208. So with Biom, she was surprisingly pretty damn good as a secondary, which was very surprising for us to see. We thought it was going to be a little bit different. Again, we used a Biom and Rina against Jeanette and Canis just to throw it out there, and he had almost 180,000 troops remaining. On this one, I had Sekhmet and Rina, and she had Krishna and Kalope. Not bad. Still a little bit more than a third of my troops remaining, but nowhere near as good as what Phenix was throwing at me at one point. We did a Biom and Rina against a Sekhmet and Biom, one of my favorite marches to bring out in the field. Same troop count. He just demolished. I mean, obviously something's crazy good about Biom and Rina, even against my Sekhmet and Biom, which I can't figure out because I have no idea. Both of my commanders are awakened here. His Biom's awakened. He's not even getting this awakened crazy skill here. So I just have no idea. If anyone knows why this is appearing as good as it is in the field, let alone, once again, I know it's tier 1. I know our labs are different. I know our commanders aren't always going to be maxed and everything like that, but just why in this scenario it's so good, it would be very, very helpful. Next, we threw a Rina Bella against Krishna and Destina, and this March held up pretty good. It was still only 50,000 survivors. I had less than a third remaining. But once again, if you're just fighting in the field, you want something that's going to last. Not a terrible March. We had a Bella primary and Rina against my Sekhmet and Biam, and I just crushed Phenix. So like I said, against Uniques, Bella Rina is going to survive. Against Legendaries, they are not. Moving on here, I had Sekhmet and Biam against Rina Numa. Why we did this one again, I don't know. How Phenix outlasted this and just got crazy reports, I don't know. It was just surprising to say the least. We both had tier 1. The only thing I can think of is just how often Rina pops her skill. It was just disastrous once we got down to a certain point. And then one of the final reports here, as we're getting close, was an Isaac Biam against Rina Biam, and mine won by almost a 1-to-2 ratio here. So definitely Isaac Biam is not a March I would bring out in the field. As proven here, because Rina is just going to stomp on almost every single thing that we got until we get the new infantry commander. And then, like I said, we had Lord come into here. He hopped into the Discord call pretty late, about an hour into the recording, to help us take a look at stuff. So him and I pretty much went all out with same type of thing. Tier 1 against tier 1. I tried to match his troop count. So Rina Biam against Rina Isaac. I ended up taking the cake on this one here. As you can tell, I have more attack than he does by quite a bit. He has more defense and health. So in this scenario here, it definitely worked out well, but he also had Isaac as primary. The next combination, he had Rina Isaac against my Rina Biam, and it was a very, very, very close battle, but at the end, his did end up taking the cake, and he had 22,000 surviving. So the Isaac defense boosts really added everything in and allowed him to take that fight as a victor. Next, we tested a Sekhmet Rina with both of them. His lab just overpowered mine. His Rina is built just a tad bit different than mine, and I'd imagine his Sekhmet is as well, which was the big thing. My Sekhmet's more or less kind of like a mixture of hunt and open field, where his is a lot more focused on the just a general attacking tree. Next, we tried a Sekhmet Rina on Lord's side against a Sekhmet Biam, and it just wasn't even close. I don't even want to comment on this. My favorite March is getting absolutely shredded. Okay, so we're down to the last two. So he wanted to try Rina Isaac against my Rina Agnes, and he came away victorious. The only thing I will say is his Isaac is completely awakened. My Agnes is not. So in this scenario where I'd get that extra skill recovery, I would get the extra mana recovery, and I would get an extra 30%. That could change everything a lot, because we know that Agnes is very, very good. But we're just testing with what we have. Not everyone's going to have everything completely maxed. Not all of us are complete whales. So this is the most realistic scenario that we could come up with. And then finally here, we have Rina Sekhmet against Isaac and Ivan. And mine won. He still was able to take out a little over 100,000 troops. So definitely not the march that you want to run on the open field on the north side. So after I claim all my stuff here, because I'm impatient, what is my overall opinion? Rina is an absolute beast in the open field. I'm pretty sure everyone has already kind of known that. So who would I pair with her if you wanted to work another commander? So if you just want one cavalry march out in the open field, I would definitely run either a Rina Agnes or a Rina Isaac. I'd imagine that you are a maybe a lower tier spender or a free to play. So if you can work those two commanders for your one cavalry march, one of those two, that would be a pretty good combination. If you wanted something along the lines of two open fields, maybe I would go something like Rina Sekhmet, and then I would do Agnes and Isaac. If you only wanted to run Rina and then with a unique, I would either run her with Bella, or you could either run her with Galahad. Um, so those were the marches I found were the best. Would I throw her as a secondary? I would not. I would definitely try and keep her as much of a primary as you're capable of. Um, but if you're running your own tests with your own setup and you just notice that Rena's just not powerful enough yet, but she's powerful enough to be a secondary, run that march. Anything that you do out in the open field to help your kingdom take on another kingdom, that's just going to benefit you in the long run. That's going to benefit your kingdom and anything that you can do. So as always, at this point of the video, if you saw anything that you might have disagreed with, or you've done your own tests and you found something a little bit different than what I did, with different scenarios or whatever, please comment it down below. I would love to take a look and see what you ended up doing and what you ended up finding. Maybe you had a better set than I did on here. As I know I'm missing a couple stats. I've always just liked the attack and defense tree over any health. I'd rather do more damage than be able to stay out in the field longer, because I know I can just heal. It doesn't bother me that much. So, like I said, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like this, please leave a comment, like the video, and as always, subscribe. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace.